Yeah, let's move on to learning how the music industry and really the entertainment industry as a whole really works. Now, there's quite a few landmines that I could step on with this one that I'm going to try and avoid. Also, this subject is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but suffice to say that we know in the entertainment industry, particularly around New York and LA, for a long time, there has been a lot of abuse that goes on. Me Too in 2016, 2017, as much as it unearthed a lot of false accusations, unearthed a lot of legitimate accusations as well, particularly surrounding people like Harvey Weinstein, using positions of power to take advantage of young, vulnerable women who didn't have the same power as them, who wanted to make it in the industry. This is clearly what happened. This clearly does not just stop at Harvey Weinstein. This goes deep, deep, deep within the industry and within the industry's roots. I have not experienced anything of the like myself, but from my own experience in the UK entertainment industry and the music, I can say for certain that I experienced gatekeeping. There is a reason I am not in a band anymore. It is because of my job here, the management company who were looking after us, and some of the venues that we were going, and even a festival that we were going to perform at, said that if I was still a member of the band, they did not want us to play. And so I had to leave to make sure that the rest of the band could carry on. I'm still friends with them all. It was a big thing at the time, but I'm still friends with them all. It wasn't their decision. They were put into a very difficult position. But the industry has natural gatekeeping mechanisms for people because they want to make sure that you're either already on side or easily controllable. And what's the easiest way to control somebody? Well, it's to force humiliating sex acts upon them and preferably get it on camera.
Wasn't this the Jeffrey Epstein
yes, this was
conspiracy theory, which actually turned out to be true?
This was what Jeffrey Epstein was probably doing with a lot of the people on his island. That's why he was friends with so many high-up people. He was probably also backed by certain foreign governments, but I'm not going to say anything about that. But I was mainly made aware of this because this all centers around what at first seems like, for me as somebody who doesn't like hip-hop, somebody who I don't really think about, which is P. Diddy. Do you know who P. Diddy is, formerly known as Puff Daddy, real name Sean Combs?
I only know him because of Rockbusters.
He was on Rockbusters?
Yeah.
Really?
He's got a couple of kids. That's weird, isn't it? Unless you watched XFM, you're not going to get that. But,
do you want to just give context for YouTube viewers?
So Carl Pilkington used to run Rockbusters, which is Blockbusters, but he's doing rock instead, music. Mm-hmm. So he did a question. You had to guess the author, like the artist. So it was, he's got a couple of kids. That's a bit weird in it. And the answer was Puff Daddy.
Where does two come into? Because I can kind of see Daddy.
Well, it became P. Diddy, so it didn't even make sense. But the show was crap. That was the point. It was funny because it was bad.
Carl's clues were absolutely stupid every single time. What's the one about? It's a funny shaped thing that you would wash dishes in.
N-Sync.
Yeah, and it was N.
Because if you're washing up in a sink that's shaped like an N,
it's going to be stupid. Yeah. Anyway, so that's about Callum's cultural knowledge of P. Diddy. But yeah, P. Diddy's like a rapper. I didn't know this until I started looking into this, but he's really well connected within the music industry on the East Coast scene. He runs a record label called like Bad Boy Records, and was one of the people signing loads of the up and coming stars, making sure that they had a career in the industry. And I first learned about this because P. Diddy at the moment has a number of lawsuits that have been filed against him.
Hi folks, sorry to interrupt the video, but I just want to direct your attention to the aesthetics range of merch that we have on the store. These are beautiful images that I think work really well as posters or mugs. So if you want to support us, going over to the merch store at shop.lotus.com is easily the best way other than signing up on the website.
One has already been settled, I believe, at the end of November, and we'll get into the details of that. But these lawsuits, if what they are alleging is true, unsurprisingly unveils another layer of the absolute corruption of the entertainment industry all across the West, and suggests that up-and-coming stars in these industries, particularly music stars and Hollywood stars, I would imagine as well, are subject to humiliating sex rituals, made to be under the thumb of the people who are higher up in the chain than them, with the promises of fame, stardom, because of course these people act as the gatekeepers. The record labels are either friends with or own the distribution networks, who are also friends with the people who own the radio stations and play your music, probably have control over particular algorithms on YouTube, have access to big money to advertise these things on billboards, put them everywhere, YouTube adverts that you'll get when you're clicking on a video. The fact of the matter is, if you believe that the entertainment industry is any form of a meritocracy, you are dead wrong. And it's been at least since the 1990s that these people have actively been hiring artists who are not talented because they've already got teams of songwriters. If you go on any pop album, you will find that either the producer has co-written all of the songs, or that there is already a team of songwriters that they get to write all of the songs with them or for them. And these people don't have any talent outside of the industry backing. So they have to rely on them completely. And if you want to stay famous, if you want to stay rich, then you're going to have to do what we say. The quote that I've found from a particular source was that supposedly Sean Combs, or perhaps his mentor in the industry, a music producer called Clive Davis, said something along the lines of, if you can get someone to suck your dick, you can get them to do anything.
Well, break out the Connor bingo card. Billie Eilish actually made 2 songs about this on a recent album. She made 2 very overt allusions to the fact that to get into the music industry, she had been sexually abused as a child. And then she was wearing baggy clothing throughout when she was underage. And as soon as she hits 18, she starts wearing more revealing outfits.
And she starts sexualizing herself.
Yeah.
Also, her brother is already an established songwriter within the industry.
Yes.
Callum, it's very interesting. If you look into how the Western music industry works, all of the top hits, something like 50% of all the top hits, are basically written by the same Swedish guy who wrote all of Justin Bieber's hits and loads of pop stars' hits. There is basically a team of 4 or 5 songwriters who will write all the pop hits, and they have teams with the record labels and everything else, once again, the distribution network, who will make sure that you get your name out there, because they will basically force it. People hate Nickelback, for instance. There's a reason that people hate Nickelback, and I don't think it's necessarily because their music is the worst ever written, but it's because when a particular song came out, Rockstar, in 2006, even I remember, and I was 10 years old, it was the only thing that was played on the radio constantly. They would play Rockstar, then a different song, then Rockstar, then a different song, then Rockstar, over and over and over again. It was oversaturated, but that's how the music industry makes a song a number one. You don't decide as the audience what songs you think are best. You get handed a song by the radio stations, by the algorithms, and then with enough exposure, it just becomes something that you either like or tolerate.
To show you how algorithmic it is as well, at the same time, Katy Perry and Jessie J, Blast from the Past, released a song called... So Katy Perry's was Last Friday Night and Jessie J's is Domino. If you listen to them side by side, they're the exact same track, just with different lyrics. And they were released at the same time.
I forget what it is. There's
Incredibly lazy.
Yeah,
it is massively lazy. There's a reason people point out there's the 4 chords, which is a 4-chord sequence that basically... like 50 to 60% of all pop songs are based around the same 4-chord sequence, that they don't even shift which you can literally, if you're on a guitar, you can take a capo to change the key and make it sound a little bit different. Most of them don't even do that. Anyway, let's get into the actual mechanics and details of what's going on. So once again, I learned about this through this interview debate that Candace Owens, who's been doing a lot of interesting work on this, did with Destiny, where she went to his home and they were on stream together and they spoke about it. Candace Owens had all of the information straight off the top of her head because she'd been reading about this. She'd been looking into the court documents that had been filed that you can find online. Destiny literally had no idea what he was talking about, said that he hadn't heard of this, but then immediately started to talk about, well, maybe it's just a coincidence that all of these allegations keep popping up about the same people with the same details every single time. What maybe the music industry is just a meritocracy. So, average Dem brain.
Candace Owens is like, good point, Destiny. One small problem. I am inside your home.
Quite literally, yes. But that's just what people like Destiny do. They try and say, well, have you thought about this incredible twisting hypothetical that means that everything is perfectly fine and the regime narrative is actually correct?
I don't know why he does this either. Like, it's fine to just be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no knowledge.
It's quite remarkable, but I decided to look into this. And once again, like I say, I don't want this to go on for too long, but this was an enormous rabbit hole. So there is this article from The Cut that came out in February that has some details, but this is not the whole thing because the mainstream narrative is missing out some of the details that really put a lot of this together. And I'll be referring to some independent journalists who've been looking into this as we go on. So in November 2023, the singer Cassie, real name Cassandra Ventura, filed a federal lawsuit against her former partner, Sean Diddy Combs, P. Diddy, claiming that he had been physically and sexually abusive throughout their relationship. Excuse me. The complaint alleged that Combs' abuse ranged from beating Ventura and forcing her to have sex with other men to raping her at her home in 2018.
Jesus.
The rapper settled the lawsuit within a day And for what we know at the moment, that's for an undisclosed amount. I've heard a rumor that it might be $250,000 a year for or even a month for the rest of her life to keep her quiet, because supposedly a lot of this was caught on camera. And one of the benefits of keeping it out of the courts is if there's video footage of it, nobody in a jury or in the public has to see that footage. So you want to keep that away from the public eye. Cassie Ventura says she first met Combs in 2005 when she was 19 and he was 37. In the lawsuit, she alleges that Combs controlled nearly every aspect of her life, from her career to having access to her personal medical records. She claims he was frequently violent, physically abusing her multiple times a year, and he often plied her with copious amounts of drugs. The complaint also claims that Combs forced Ventura to have sex with male prostitutes in different cities, encounters she says he watched, masturbated to, and recorded. And what these are known as within the industry, according to this complaint, two other lawsuits, and the most recent one, which are all still in the court system, is that these are called freak-offs, where lots of people within the industry, and there are other people implicated in this. Once again, it alleges that people like Kevin Hart, the movie star who's friends with The Rock and people like that, supposedly Kevin Hart was involved in these. Basically, loads of industry insiders get together, have strange gay and bisexual orgies while they're all hopped up on loads of drugs that are often filmed, basically so that they have a blackmail ring around each other, similar to Epstein.
Blackmail or blackmail?
Both. We've got footage of you sucking off this guy. He's got footage of you having sex with this guy. We've all got footage of each other, so we all play ball and stay in line. Because often, if you look into, say, economic arguments for how for how cartel businesses work, where they monopolize the industry, the argument that, say, the Austrians always use would be that a cartel would be inherently unstable and want to break up because you would have different factions within these cartels that would want to get more power. What's a great way of preventing the cartel breakup is to make sure that, well, if you do anything to try and usurp me or I do anything against you, mutually assured destruction, I will release footage of you
having gay sex.
Not just like doing the most disgusting shit imaginable to the public so everybody can see. And whether you care about public opinion or not, you don't want that out.
But also, if you've made your entire rap career off of looking like a hard man,
yeah, that's another thing. There's a lot of homophobia within the rap industry.
Yeah.
That's
you're going to lose all your listeners, and therefore you can't pay the court fees as well.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it's clear as well, because of the fact that these court cases have either been settled outside of court or are still in the system. All of these are still allegations at the moment.
Right.
Can I ask Bruce real quick? How is that justice? The idea that, well, you just mentioned that court case there, where that person gets paid $250,000 for the rest of their life, whatever time period.
It basically means that if it's true, he got away with it, right? Or, except he just has to pay a fee for it.
We've just legalized blackmail, then, have we?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean just? It's been going on for ages.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
This goes deeper, and there is potential law enforcement involvement.
Just if you're rich enough, you can do what you want. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's literally how it works. Apparently, another woman, referred to as Jane Doe in the complaint, filed a fourth lawsuit on December 6th, alleging that Combs, his longtime lieutenant Harvey Pierre, and a third unidentified assailant gang raped her at Combs' Manhattan recording studio in 2003 when she was 17 years old. Pierre, who previously served as president of Combs' Bad Boy Entertainment, has also been sued by a former assistant who alleges he used his position of authority as plaintiff's boss to groom, exploit, and sexually assault her several times between 2016 and 17. The lawsuit claims that the men trafficked Doe across state lines from Detroit to New York City on a private jet, plied the teenager with drugs and alcohol until she couldn't consent. I mean, she was 17, so it was still messed up anyway, but that makes it even worse. And then violently assaulted her as she told them to stop. The complaint also includes several photos that Doe alleges were taken at the studio on that night, including one where she's sitting on Combs' lap. In February, and this is the big explosive one that's come out that takes all of these allegations and kind of puts them into a framework that really makes it make sense as to what the hell is going on. Combs' former producer and videographer filed a federal lawsuit against the mogul, alleging Combs sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened him. According to the lawsuit, which was filed by Rodney Lil Rod Jones,
unfortunate name.
Yeah, he worked on, that's a good point. He worked on Combs' most recent album, Love, and lived with him between September 2022 and November 2023. Jones alleges that he was the victim of constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of the anus by Mr. Combs. On one occasion, yeah, I know.
It's funnier in your accent, Harry. I'm sorry.
Yep. On one occasion, the lawsuit claims Jones woke up naked and disoriented in bed with Combs and 2 prostitutes. He alleges the music mogul drugged him. The complaint also claims that, in his role as Combs' videographer, Jones secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity. The illegal activity the suit alleges includes acquiring drugs, soliciting sex workers, prostitutes, providing laced drinks to minors, and sexual assault. Jones's suit names several other defendants, including Combs' son Justin, Combs' chief of staff Christina Karam, Universal Music Group CEO Sir Lucian Grange, and former Motown Records CEO Ethiopia Habtemariam. Combs' lawyer, Sean Holley, has denied all of these allegations, saying we have overwhelming, indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies. But if this does go to court and this guy does turn out to have hundreds of hours of footage of this all happening, well, then that's a bad look, because it's not lies. But once again, these are all allegations. There are other parts to this. So in the other allegations that have been made, if you look deeper into these documents, Sean P. Diddy, it gives some of his backstory here. He got his start at Uptown Records. He developed R&B legends like Mary J. Blige and Jodeci before pivoting to creating music himself. In 1993, he set up his own record label, Bad Boy Entertainment, with talent from Uptown, such as Notorious B.I.G., helped the label to take off. 12 years, 3 Grammys, and blah, blah. It goes into his details with Cassie. Diddy signed Cassie to Bad Boy Entertainment shortly after they met. So there's that pipeline. And they officially dated between 2012 and 2018. And this is where some of the other allegations from Cassie's original lawsuit that got filed come in. He's accused of blowing up Kid Cudi's car because, according to the lawsuit, Cassandra Ventura dated Kid Cudi in 2012. I don't know if there was overlap between their relationships. Combs was apparently so angry about it that he mentioned how he wanted to blow up the rapper's car. Around that time, the lawsuit reads, Kid Cudi's car did explode in his driveway. Kid Cudi himself approved this account via a spokeswoman who confirmed that Kid Cudi had a car that exploded. This is all true, he said. Number 5, he is accused of paying $50,000 for footage of him assaulting Ventura. During one freak-off, as I explained earlier, in 2016, Ventura claims that she tried to escape after she was punched in the face by Combs, giving her a black eye. Once Combs fell asleep, she says she tried to leave the room, but he woke up and followed her into the hallway. Once in the hallway, Ventura claims Combs threw multiple glass vases at her, sending glass shattering throughout the corridor. Court filing claims the incident was captured on the hotel security cameras, but he paid off the hotel $50,000 for the footage. Once again, these are all allegations because this was settled out of court, so we don't know the truth of these, but these are pretty insane. And once again, P. Diddy has had a lot of allegations thrown at him throughout his entire time in the industry because he's always had a history of violence. He's always had a history of getting into scuffles with other members of the rap scene. He is heavily implicated by some in the death of Tupac or even the notorious B.I.G., his own artist, although I can't speak to the truth of that. 50 Cent has also said that this kind of stuff was going on and is in fact making, supposedly, his own documentary about these allegations at the moment.
Did P. Diddy and R. Kelly ever work together? Because, of course, R. Kelly is infamous for
I don't know.
predatory.
I don't know. I didn't see anything come up regarding that. Once again, the really important part is the conspiratorial aspect of this, the fact that there were lots of people involved in this, like Christina Karam, Universal Music Group's CEO, and that's the really important part of this whole story. And this goes into a little bit more detail regarding it. So it talks about Jones's suit, and he said that they were engaging in sex trafficking, ran his inner circle as a RICO enterprise. I would have looked at the lawsuit documents myself, but they're behind a paywall online. All of the other documents aren't, but this one is, although I think
This is a premium lawsuit. You've got to...
Exactly.
It's £5 a month.
If you could subscribe to our Patreon, that gives you exclusive to access to exclusive lawsuits. So it ran his inner circle as a RICO enterprise that functioned like a criminal organization. Bear in mind as well that Sean Combs' father worked for, oh God, what's his name? Let me just look this up. Sean Combs, because I know his father worked for a black gangster. And when I say black gangster, I don't mean hood gangster. I mean like organized mafioso type gangster. Where was his son? Melvin Combs, that's it, worked for a man called Frank Lucas, who supposedly was involved in the CIA, basically trafficking heroin. But I don't know exactly how true that is, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it. Jones's suit is sprawling document that names well-known music executives. Here's a guide. So Christina Karam, Diddy's chief of staff, who Jones alleges in the suit, procured prostitutes for Combs and would instruct her staff to lace champagne, Dillon tequila, and Ciroc liquor bottles with ecstasy and other illicit drugs, and required all employees from the butler, the chef, to the housekeepers to walk around with a pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, and other drugs. Karam has not responded to requests for comment. Supposedly, it was also stated that she was in charge of keeping Diddy high at all times. Anything that he was drinking had to be spiked with some kind of stimulant, up or down, or some kind of drug, presumably because it would make him more compliant, is what this court document alleges.
This sounds very familiar.
Ethiopia Habtemariam, once again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, as mentioned, was the former CEO of Motown Records, which partnered with Combs on his Love Records imprint. Jones claims that he, Habtemariam, visited Combs' home during writing sessions and social gatherings, and that she had a duty and obligation to ensure that prostitutes and underage girls were not present, and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol with date rate drugs. A rep for Universal Music Group did not respond to a request for comment. Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group, the world's largest record label conglomerate and Motown's parent company. Jones claims that Grange also attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in Los Angeles, California, where some of the alleged misconduct took place. A rep for UMG did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, there's something interesting about Lucian Grange as well. As I mentioned, he's the CEO of Universal Music Group. As part of this allegation, supposedly he would visit Diddy's house, and that whenever he did, the two of them would go into Diddy's bedroom for hours at a time and lock themselves away. Another interesting fact is that his father was a man known as Cecil G., who was a tailor who in the 1960s designed fashion for the Beatles on behalf of their manager, Brian Epstein. So,
relation?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
There's also a man who will become relevant in a moment involved, who's named in this lawsuit, called Fahim Mohammed, who is Diddy's head of security, who Jones claims had the power to make people and problems disappear, and served as an intermediary between the LAPD and Diddy after the Chalice shooting. He did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Again, let me get into the details of that, because I'm sure I know where you're going to try and take this, Connor. So I looked into this. Once again, I couldn't find the documents myself, but Candace Owens has been doing some interesting work looking into this, and did seem to have, maybe she paid just to get access to the documents because she was citing them in the videos that she's done on them. But I got some more details from this. So supposedly this Fahim Mohammed man was basically a fixer. You know, in Pulp Fiction, how they have Mr. Wolf, who comes in and cleans up the mess after they accidentally kill a guy. He's that guy. So the allegation is that Diddy and his son, when they were at a club in LA, I think it was, at the end of 2020, in September, 2022, I should say, murdered a man, which was then covered up by the LAPD. And this Fahim Mohammed was the guy that they called in to come in and clean the whole situation up for them. And in the documentation, he includes photographs of the incident that he took, because obviously he's the guy who was always there around Diddy, supposed to be taking photos and taking videos of everything, so he caught a lot of it on camera. It goes into the stuff to do with freak-offs, and Candace Owens thinks that a lot of the degeneracy within the industry basically reinforcing itself is one of the reasons that the rap culture music that's pushed on black communities in America is so degenerate. That's one of the reasons that she thinks, because the people within it are degenerate and they want to encourage poor, degenerate behavior among blacks. The chief of staff, Christina Karam, as I mentioned, her job was to keep Diddy high using pills, gummies, spiked drinks, and such. There's loads of photographs in the documents. This court document is something like 70 pages long. And apparently as well, according to the documents, Diddy had hidden cameras in his bedroom and all throughout his house, capturing everything that went on in there. So if Lucian Grange is involved in this and supposedly spent time locked away in his bedroom with Diddy, where you can make some educated guesses to what might have been going on there, that might have all been caught on camera as well, because once again, the blackmail can go both ways.
This Muhammad fellow,
Yes?
anything to do with Nation of Islam?
Nothing mentioned to do with that.
Right, interesting.
Also, she talks about Cat Williams, who went on Joe Rogan. I don't know exactly when, but basically made a lot of these same allegations. There are other connections, and this is where I go to a man called Ian Carroll, who's been looking into a lot of this and posting what he's been finding on Twitter. He's gone through all of the documents and reading a lot of what's going on there. He pointed out that 1/3 of last year's top 100 songs are controlled by Universal Music Group. Now, what he did, he got the top 100 songs off of the Billboard charts and just looked into the record labels and then saw who were the parent groups of those record labels. 33 of them, of the top 100, came from Universal Music Group. And if there is this sexual blackmail ring going on, if you have to trade favors in the industry, allegedly, to be able to get to the top, and Universal Music Group has fingers in all sorts of different pies, will be connected with lots of the distribution, radio algorithms, just like what I said, then I suppose what it suggests is you come in, you do some awful, horrible shit for these people, and then they make you a star because they have everything they need to get you to the top of the Billboard charts if they need to. There's also some other details that really start to put the whole picture together. So I'll just play some of his clip that he's posted on Twitter here. You've got anything to say first?
So you're telling me the music industry is controlled by a small group of people who engage in blackmail that's noncery and rape and date rape?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, they are as bad as I thought. Okay, all right.
Let's just see what he's got to say about all this.
But now the bigger picture. See, Diddy has been one of the most powerful people in the rap industry ever since the 90s when he founded Bad Boy Records. And he was only 24 when he founded it. He started his career as a non-paid intern at A&R until he was then fired in 1993 when he was 24 and founded his own label, Bad Boy Records, later that year. So how does a 24-year-old found a massive record label on his own? Well, when you dig further, you realize it wasn't on his own. It was with the help of Clive Davis, his mentor. And the further into it all you dig, you realize that Clive Davis came out as gay later on. And there's a lot of rumors that him and Diddy were in a relationship throughout this time. This is going to come up over and over and over.
I'm not going to touch on that.
Just by chance. Clive Davis has been running significant portions of the music industry since our parents were kids listening to music, responsible for artists like Aretha Franklin, Alicia Keys, The Grateful Dead, then later Usher, Outkast, Pink. But back in the 60s and 70s, like Janis Joplin, Santana, Aerosmith, Pink Floyd, like, come on, read it. Jones specifically claims that they were trying to groom him to do gay stuff, which has long been the talk of the town in the rap industry by people that aren't with it. Diddy allegedly showed him a tape from a secret recording that he just happened to have of Jones's idol having gay sex with some white guy. And then Diddy apparently told Jones that he had engaged in gay sex with this redacted rapper and that redacted rapper and his idol, Stevie J. And apparently he also promised to make sure that Jones would win Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he did gay stuff on camera. Although, to be clear, he wasn't explicitly saying on camera, but Mr. Jones discovered that Diddy had hidden cameras in every room of his home. I'm going to guess that Diddy didn't learn how to wire a whole house with cameras on his own. Kanye has accused Diddy of being a Fed many times. Diddy's also been accused of ordering the hit on Tupac many times. And when Diddy was asked about this on a podcast, this was his response.
We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking.
When you start digging into allegations of the CIA, the FBI, the Mossad having tentacles in the music industry, you wind up at total rumors like this. Former CIA agent admits agency created gangster rap to fill private prisons by glamorizing criminality. Claims like famous hip-hop lyrics of the legendary hip-hop outfit NWA were even scripted by a team of psychologists and war propagandists inside the CIA, according to this former agent. Obviously.
So yeah, that's a lot of that towards the end is speculation and rumors that are going on. But we did learn the other day when we covered the Tucker Carlson interview with that guy talking about the CIA working in tandem with the EU and other such things for basically psychological operations within the European countries to make sure that you can't get populist nationalist parties in the ascendancy. Are you going to be that surprised if it turned out that the intelligence agencies, which always conduct intelligence operations abroad, are going to be doing this sort of thing to their own population? This is all allegation, speculation, and rumor there, but I wouldn't be that shocked personally, especially if the rest of this is going on. And I just want to let me see if I can. Well, I think John's got it loaded up on the next one. It just finishes off this bit here.
Lil Dicky. So you might not remember, but back in the 90s, Tupac and Biggie were both coming up, and they were both talking about leaving their records that we've shown the people involved in those records already and starting their own. And Tupac was starting to speak out a little bit maybe about the nature of the industry. Diddy was close in the middle of that, and there's a lot of rumors that he ordered the hit on Tupac. Diddy sort of rose to power on the power vacuum of Tupac and Biggie both leaving the scene. And he has been manipulating and running a huge portion of the industry from the inside ever since. And this court case directly alleges with lots of evidence that he has been running a sexual blackmail scheme that entire time, promoting artists that would engage in the sexual blackmail scheme and then do their bidding there, because there's not just him acting alone, and pushing out, ostracizing, blacklisting, attacking artists that wouldn't.
So
there's a lot to go on there.
yeah, there's a lot there. Need some more evidence before I buy in. But the reason that I brought up the Nation of Islam earlier, and that did prick my ears up, is because that Muhammad fellow, it's not a very common name in the States, particularly not in LA and the like. If he's a fixer, you see a lot of the music industry and the intelligence agencies circulating around the Nation of Islam. There is the rumor that Louis Farrakhan and the rest of the Nation of Islam coordinated Malcolm X's hit via the CIA when he left the Nation of Islam. Prince, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, all affiliated with the Nation of Islam because they were getting very anti-Semitic because they were accusing Jewish record label holders of extorting them shortly before they died, all under the similar circumstances where someone had plied them with drugs, like Diddy's handler. Tupac and Kanye have also affiliated with the Nation of Islam. There seems to be a sort of like nexus of black artists here.
Well, it's interesting that you mention all of that, because there is one more connection to talk about here, which is that there is an actual Michael Jackson connection. You know that Fahim Mohammed, who's the fixer?
Yeah.
When he was 21 years old, Fahim Mohammed was the head of security for Michael Jackson in 2009 when Michael Jackson died. And it's interesting that you mention all of that because, of course, Michael Jackson, at the time of his death, was still embroiled in a lot of the allegations that were against him, which had gone through court numerous times, never had any proof. All of the people who were involved had no evidence to their claims, and all of the children who were supposedly abused actually came and testified in court that they had never had any kind of contact with Michael Jackson like that. But what Michael Jackson was involved in was a war over the fact that he owned about half, I think 50% of Sony Records, and also the entirety of the Beatles catalog.
And Elvis.
And Elvis as well.
And his own.
Yes, you're right. So he had a lot of power. He was trying to strike out his own space within the industry where he could operate independently. And then this guy, who had graduated from university the year before with a business and real estate degree, somehow ends up as his head of security right around the time that he dies. So that's very interesting. And one of the other people who's ended up getting involved in this, because of Candace Owens talking about everything that you've done there, very candidly, and talking about Michael Jackson's particular grievances within the industry and Kanye's grievances within the industry, let's just say revolving around the subject of the song, They Don't Really Care About Us. Michael Jackson's former rabbi Shmuley, is currently trying to get into a big thing with Candace Owens.
He's threatened to sue her, hasn't he?
Yes, he has threatened to sue her over what's going on with this, because she's very critical of Rabbi Shmuley, and Shmuley has said that her boosting of this story and then her talking about Kanye West and defending him in the past and such is anti-Semitism. He's saying that she's launching poisonous attacks on Jews all over social media, and says that he's going to throw out a comprehensive lawsuit that will bankrupt her as well as Ben Shapiro. So that's very interesting. Just wanted
Being anti-Semitic.
Yes. I just wanted to address that. And then also just to say as well that this isn't just the music industry, this is all of the entertainment industry, Hollywood, and everything else, because at the moment there are other allegations being put out. For instance, Drake Bell of Drake and Josh is saying that the Nickelodeon dialogue coach, Brian Peck, abused him as a child actor when he was working on Drake and Josh.
Not related to Josh Peck.
I don't know.
Josh Peck is his co-star.
I don't know. And also a load of the old Nickelodeon alums, as it says in this headline, are alleging a toxic work environment on the set of Dan Schneider shows, and there have been a number of allegations thrown against Dan Schneider.
Well, that was
who
Jeanette
were-
McCurdy. Her
Yeah.
entire book was alluding that she'd been sexually abused in the industry.
Yes, so I am saying, of course, that all of these are allegations at the moment, and I'm sorry that this went on for so long, but I do think there is a lot of coincidences all pointing towards the fact and everything that we know about Me Too and everything that happened that has come to light, Jeffrey Epstein, Me Too, all of that stuff does suggest that within the entertainment industry, you are purposefully being sold no talent artists, actors, musicians, anybody who are all embroiled in a sexual blackmail ring and having them thrown in your face so that they can promote degenerate morals. And anybody who is talented immediately gets sidelined because they're less easy to control that way. So yeah, that's just everything that's going on there. Like I said, it was a hell of a rabbit hole. Sorry to take you on such a long journey, but that's everything I've got there.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode with Aaron McIntyre. If you'd like to find out what else has been put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.